pulled the shirt on, scored the goals. Andy Campbell on the Red.
This is the Red.
Hello, mate. Good to see you again.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening. Get proper football back.
Good to see you in men's clothing, not football kits.
Just started my modelling career today.
It is.
44 years old.
44 years old. 44 years young, mate.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
There are some older than you.
Yeah.
We'll not go there. I get ripped to bits on the breakfast show every morning about my age. So, but yeah, nice to see you in some retro Boro gear. Did you bring back memories?
Yeah, the best memories for me. That's the kit. What made me probably the player I am. It's the shirt, obviously the famous shirt of when I made my debut, home debut and away debut. So it's nice. I think it's just missing that Cellnet writing, but obviously with Cellnet but not being Cellnet anymore, and I think it's O2 now, isn't it? So I think that the rights were denied. So for any Boro fan who's asking on social media, unfortunately, the reason behind it was because O2 said no.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Because a couple of fans have said all it needs now is Cellnet written across the
just
chest.
write it neatly in pen.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? I suppose they've got a brand to consider.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
and the RO2.
And to be fair, part of me likes it because it looks a bit different and looks a bit more laid back and less like a match shirt and more like a training top. Looks quite smart. I like it.
And the youngster.
Yeah, she got a guest appearance. Yeah, so I think she impressed more than me. To be fair,
cracking.
So you might see more of her.
She looked really cute in that top. Well done.
She is. Yeah, she's cute. She must take after me.
Is she a big Boro fan?
Yeah, huge. Yeah, she's a good footballer as well.
Obviously a big daddy fan. I've seen the videos you've posted a couple on social media.
Footballer, so hopefully she continues to progress like a big sister. And my kids are all into football and all very good as well. So technically miles better than I ever was, but hopefully they can go as far as they want.
Right, it is Andy Campbell on Cam's RedArmy, and we're joined by a special guest as well very shortly on the programme. But I suppose before we get to Chris Freestone, another Boro striker. Yeah. Two young lads together, weren't you?
We were, yeah. Chris came in the first team. I think we got him from Arnold Town. I think from a local team in Nottingham or around that area. And Chris played in the reserves. He was well ahead of me. A little bit older than me, more experienced than me, more streetwise than me. And I think we're going to dig deep into a centre forward play and his obviously successful time at the club and the goals that he scored in his development. But yeah, he was a little bit more experienced than me, a little bit older than me, but yeah, cracking lad and very good football as well. Yeah, well, Chris joins us now. Chris, you're through to your old strike partner, and he's just been sitting there because you're a bit older than him. His mentor, it's Chris Freestone. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you. I don't know about the mental bit, but mental maybe, yeah.
Well, they were my words. I put them into Andy's mouth. Don't you worry.
Chris, thanks for coming on, mate. I say it genuinely means a lot. I think for the Boro fans alone to have that experience and to be able to listen to someone who's pulled that shirt on, I think you know what football means to people in this area. But what did it mean to you to come to the club, to pull that red shirt on I think at the beginning in more development wise for your career in the reserves with Gordon McQueen, etc. But what did it mean to you?
It's just the only thing I ever wanted to do, if I'm honest. I was at even from the youngest age, just wanted to play football, be a professional footballer and play at Wembley. It was like the only two goals I ever had. So it took me a while. I was in my 20s by the time I finally got the chance, and it was just the best experience ever, and my first game was actually at Blackpool away, and we were rubbish. Gordon McQueen gave everybody an absolute roasting in the dressing room, so it was a wake up and welcome to professional football when he went round the changing room with his huge hands just pointing in everybody's faces and telling everybody how rubbish they were. But it was great. I scored that day as well, so I actually got a little bit of praise off him, so I was quite happy.
Chris, on that one, obviously Gordon was a huge figure in stature and personality. Obviously, we know recently, obviously, sadly he passed away. How influential was he in your career as a footballer, and more importantly, probably as a person?
Massive, because I used to see him, Brian Robson, Viv Anderson, see them on the TV, and then to be in the same environment, the same club, And obviously, as you know, I went there as a reserve player, at least to start with.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time with Gordon and the rest of the lads there because they wanted to build a strong reserve side with players that could eventually push, to get into the first team. So Gordon, John Pickering, they were massive influences on me and just taught me loads and loads of things that I needed to know to be able to play at that level and hopefully push into the first team, which eventually I did. But yeah, they were strong, and then I just tried to learn from them as much as I could. It was so much experience there between them.
And I think sometimes you underestimate, don't you? And people who don't know those kind of characters, you know what I mean? They were hard but fair, ruthless at times. I think, the atmosphere around the club was quite. It was quite demanding. The tempo, everything was expected from players. You know what I mean? Because they had a quite high expectation in terms of the new stadium, even the reserve team of young players coming through. But did you feel the pressure, Chris, yourself as a player, that you had to perform at reserve level, or when you trained with the first team? Did you feel that you had to perform?
I think it's pressure you put on yourself because you want to be the best. I just have this burning desire, and I still do now at 52, where I just love scoring goals and just want to be the best at what I can be. So when you go out there and you train, you put everything into it. And the best thing about people like Gordon McQueen, John Pickering, Viv and Robbo, they were honest. Yeah. They told you the truth. If you were crap, you were crap, and they tell you were crap. And that was fine with me, and I could take that, and I was, there's none of that snowflakey stuff. Back then you had to take it, and that was it, and it was great. And if you didn't perform to the best of your ability, they'd certainly let you know. I had my own little dips, being away from the family and all of that sort of stuff. I got told straight, but it woke me up, and I just went out and played and trained harder. And you're always trying to push for that first team place. Yeah. But you've got to be at your best all the time, because there's somebody always coming up behind you, which was Andy as well, trying to come up behind me as well. So, we're fighting for the same shirt at the end of the day. Yeah, and I think the game changed as well. So. Yeah, I
think that difficult. Holy grail, Chris, in it, everyone's fighting for the same thing, and you touched on a couple of points which I'm going to focus on. You said about that they told you straight, they weren't flaky, they were open and honest. So do you think your upbringing and you coming into the game a little bit later than players come into it now, do you think that then give you a little bit of a helping hand, a good start in life? Because you see now players can come into the club at 15, 14, 15, not getting an opportunity in the first team to probably a similar age than yourself, but they probably haven't had that experience. They haven't grown up as a man. They haven't played men's football, and when they do get the opportunity, sometimes it can be them. It be a little bit too late.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I had a life. I worked for a living. It's hard times to easier times. Yeah. Going from a full-time job to playing football for a living. So I had all that sort of experience and life experience with me, which kept my feet firmly flat on the ground. I knew where I was and I knew where I wanted to be, because when you've worked on a building site in the middle of the winter, you don't really want to go back to it. If you play football for a couple of hours, there's a big difference in that. Yeah. So
football's easy, Chris, isn't it? In comparison. Yeah,
it is definitely. And and the difficulty now with the kids is that they don't get a lot of life experience beforehand. Some of them are in the game. Some of them are even in the game from 9 years of age. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. I got to enjoy my life and play football and go out drinking and girls and all of that sort of stuff, and then settle down and just focus on football. Yeah. So, these kids don't really get that opportunity. And to be fair, when I went to the Boro, it was the reserve team football, the Pontins League. It was an amazing league. Yeah, super. For me, you're playing men's football, and one week you could be playing, a team that's got half the first teamers playing. We certainly had some of our first teamers playing in the league, and then another week you could be playing the youth team. But you grow up quickly. You get smashed. You're playing against some of these top players, and sometimes you're sort of in awe of them because you've seen them on the TV, but you're playing against them. And then another week you're playing against the kids. And this is why I don't really agree with the under-21s, the under-23s. It's not men's football. That's why a lot of these kids, they end up going out on loan to step 3, step 4 type clubs to get some to get smashed around a little bit. Grow up. because they have to.
Yeah.
You know, they have to go into non-league because that's tough football. You're going to get kicked, and everybody wants to take your place. So, yeah, I never understood why they sort of stopped the Pontins and went into the professional development phase and the under-21s and under-23s league.
No, I totally agree. I think we spoke at length about development-wise and how important it is developing. Something you said earlier on about scoring goals, Chris. You know what I mean? I hate looking at Wikipedia. I hate looking at certain stats pages because they're never accurate. Arnold Town, 61 goals and 60 appearances. Forget moving.
Got a question on that from a Borough fan.
Forget the Borough one, but the amount of goals you scored in the reserves, there's no data on that. Your games to goals ratio in the reserves and in pre-season games, friendly games, was absolutely scary, to say the least. Can you tell all the viewers?
Game now, could I?
But you tell all the viewers the kind of goals and things that, because listen, as a player, you know how many goals you score. You know what I mean. You remember them. You can probably give your own personal data and things. But did you find goal scoring easy? And give us some of those stats and data.
Yeah, I mean, for me, goals was easy. Like I say, I have a passion for it. I still do now. I still love scoring goals. You know, if I said how many goals I scored, I count all my goals in training. You know, I count the ones I play on the park. They all count for me, and I celebrate every single one the same. But no, I think somebody told me once that I think my ratio pretty much throughout my whole career was about 1 point. What was it? 1 point something. It's about 1.5 goals a game.
Wow.
I think it was probably less than that at some stage. But yeah, it was just it was what it was is it's hard work to get into those areas. Putting the thing in the back of the net is the easy bit. You know, I always found that when I wasn't fit, especially when I came out of the game and you know I was getting a little bit older, when I wasn't at my highest peak fitness, I wasn't scoring as many because I didn't work hard enough to get into those areas. I was waiting for the ball to come to me. But when you are at your fittest, you make those extra runs, you make the near post runs, you know, you make them far post runs, you're driving into the box, you're just getting into the positions where and anticipating where the ball's going to drop. But to do that, you have to work hard to get into those positions first. People will only ever see whether you put the ball in the net or you don't put the ball in the net. They don't see the work off the ball, you know, and that's the most difficult part. So, you know, when you're coaching, I coach. So when I coach and you're trying to coach kids that, it's very, very difficult to try and tell them you've got to anticipate where the ball might drop. Somebody has a shot, keeper's going to parry it, where's it going to go? Because then it's a tap-in. If you understand that, you can score a shed load of goals, which I was quite fortunate, which I did.
He certainly did. It's a phenomenal way to look at it though, Dave, isn't it? That, you know what I mean, that goal scoring's easy. It's the hardest thing in terms of football, scoring goals. You know what I mean? That
I don't know as a keeper, mate. I try to keep them out.
Yeah, well, I'm probably saying it from my point of view. I think football has just evolved so much, hasn't it? You know what I mean? You look at, I think the older that I got, I felt a little bit more composed in certain areas. When I got the opportunity, I think as a young player, I snatched at a lot of things. I always looked at Chris, I always looked at Rav, I always looked at Boxage, I looked at Becky, even when Jan was there and other players, and you look at them and think that everything's natural. You know what I mean? Everything seems to be easy. It did seem to be easy, and I think when you look older and when you get a little bit more experience, you play more games. Pressure games, I'd say, not just reserve games or youth team games or friendlies and things. I think, you know what I mean, you need to understand that you might only get one chance a game, you know, that, and when you get that one chance a game, you've got to be clinical, you've got to be ruthless. And I think when we talk about Josh Coburn and we talk about Lath and we talk about other players who've had opportunities at the start, you know what I mean, their stats and data aren't great in terms of shots ratio
those
goals.
Those two are still trying to prove themselves, aren't they?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I think when you've got Chris talks about that, you know what I mean, the amount of chances that we're creating, and Chris would probably have a field day at the minute with the chances that Middlesbrough are creating, you know. So I think it would just be we lack because we lack. I don't know how much in Middlesbrough you're seeing this season, but we lack, for me, a natural goal scorer. You know, a finisher. Yeah. You know what I mean. And even when Chuba was here last year, he got in some good areas. I think, but we missed a lot of chances because we created even more because we had the left and the right. I mean, the balls in the box. We had people behind and creating chances from deep and working in between the lines and things. Where now I think we're back to that mould where we're playing good football, we're creating chances, but we lack that real clinical edge. How important is being clinical in the final box, or that, you know what I mean, that fox in the box, so to speak? I think it's
crucial, you know, and I think it's becoming few and far between with players. Everybody wants to score, you know, worldies, 30-yarders, edge of the box, curling in the top corner. Everybody wants to score. Nobody wants to get your tap-ins anymore. No one wants to live in the 6-yard box anymore. You know, I say to strikers all the time, just play in between the width of the goals. You will score goals. If you're always in between those two goalposts, you will get goals, guaranteed. But everybody wants to do something weird and wonderful and, you know, be remembered for scoring fantastic goals. So it's absolutely crucial. And I think it's even coming out of, you know, training sessions and coaching, that we do a lot of playing through the thirds and, you know, crossing and finishing type sessions, but not really good crossing. You know, we put the ball into a box, someone has a shot, keeper saves it, we go off, we go back to the back of the line. No, you got to put that thing in the back of the net. If it is the keeper saves it. Follow it through, get into good habits. And that's the thing, and I think that's the thing that we sort of picked up as well. Early doors, especially when Rav came in, is always, you know, pass the ball in the back of the net, follow everything in, hit the back of the net. Doesn't matter whether the whistle goes, doesn't matter what happens, put the thing in the back of the net and just create good habits for yourself. And I don't see that enough, especially in coaching anymore. It's just, you know, let's all score from outside the box. Well, great. But some of the best strikers in the world always used to score in that 6-yard box, within that sort of penalty spot to 6-yard box.
And just to prove I'm so much older than you two guys, Bernie Slaven was a prime example of that.
Bernie was, because Bernie didn't have the attributes, and I'm not being disrespectful of Bernie, by the way, because Bernie was my hero. He played on the shoulder because he didn't have the pace to get away from people. He played in between the 6-yard box. He played in the box, and he was always there with a half turn, ready to get a shot away. He was very selfish in terms of he didn't pass when he probably could have done, because he wanted to get those goals himself, and that's why he's got the number of goals that he has, and that's why he's a hero to many in this area, and a legend of Middlesbrough Football Club. Because to be a legend and to be rated as highly as he is, he had to get the data that he's got and get the goal ratio that he's got, and he got that by being and having those kind of attributes. You know, he didn't do the stuff outside the box.
Player.
He didn't run the channels. He didn't do all the things that Chris is talking about that players do now. I look at Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. You know what I mean? That they've probably got the best wide players I've ever seen in my entire life in terms of watching footballers play. But apart from Haaland, probably there's no other number 9 who's going to get the goals which a centre forward probably should get in terms of the chances created, because, you know what I mean, he's just a phenomenon who plays on in areas that he enjoys and eats up goals and just loves just scoring goals and having that feeling, and just you can just see in his life that he lives and dies by that feeling. But other players, they just don't seem to have it, Chris, do they? You know what I mean? And I'll go back to a few years ago, the Andy Coles of this world and the Van Nistelrooys and you know, those kind of players who just absolutely enjoyed scoring goals. They missed chance after chance, but then they would score a number of goals as well. And those players now are just a few and far between. And look at Middlesbrough at the minute. Josh Coburn does a great job, plays as a 9 for me, in my opinion, at Middlesbrough. But his data is never going to be on point. He's never going to score enough goals because he's doing a lot of stuff outside the box. He's doing a lot of things, fighting with defenders, he's running channels, he's holding the ball up for others to run in behind. Other players are getting the joy through his good play, but his stats and his data will never be as good as yours, for example, because of all the other good work that he does.
I think what's happening as well with football is, you know, you mentioned it before, you're looking at the likes of Salah and your Man Cities, and that they've got these fantastic wide players, and it's taking a lot away from the strikers. It's not the strikers that are just there to score goals. Don't get me wrong, Haaland's unbelievable, but without him in the side, their goals come from other areas. Yep. And I think that's what more and more teams are trying to do, is get goals from other areas. So even if you look in world football, how many are there fox in the box? How many are those tap-in strikers are out there? I mean, it's very difficult to name a couple. You know, they're not there. They're just not there anymore. The game has changed that much that, you know, we've got to get goals from the wide area. We've got to get those strikers coming in a little bit deep to leave space so other players can get into those gaps. I don't know if I'd like to play it now as a striker, where I'd have to play a little bit deeper and do more outside the box. The greatest piece of advice I ever got was actually before I even came to Middlesbrough, was just to give it a move and get in the box. So all I used to do was a ball would come to me, I'd get hold of it, I'd set it off for somebody else and then run away pretty much, and just get into areas in the box to score goals. And then all of a sudden it's, Chris, you got to hold the ball up more. Chris, you got to start playing with your back to goal more. Chris, you got to get hold of this and link plays in more. And I actually find it difficult. All these things started to happen at Middlesbrough as the game was changing. You know, you go from 4-4-2 into a 4-5-1 sort of formation with one striker up front, linking everybody together all of a sudden. I was like, I don't want to play like this. I actually want to get the ball over the top, get it in front of me where I live, and then I'm happy scoring goals. But then all of a sudden, Chris, you got to turn around and play with your back to goal, hold up the ball, bring other people in. And that's how the game started. And it's changed again now where, like I say, strikers are dropping deeper, wide players are cutting in and getting more goals from wide areas, and the strikers not getting as many anymore. So it's quite difficult, I would say, in today's sort of football as a striker, as that sort of natural goal scorer, because you'll always get judged on the number of goals you score. You know, and if you're not scoring them, people don't really look at all the other. It's only footballers and coaches that actually look at those players that are doing the work and doing other things for the team, even if they're not scoring goals, because they'll still be one of the first names on the sheet. Yeah. And other people will moan and groan, yeah, but he's not scored goals. Yeah, but he's doing this for the team. But actually, what's he get paid for? No, I got paid to score goals.
Can we drop in a few questions from the pundits? It's just a reminder for those, because we're out a bit complicated, Chris. We're out on the Red live on DAB radio across Teesside and smart speakers and all that sort of stuff. Facebook Live, YouTube, all that sort of stuff in video. So questions coming in from all sorts of angles. But one here, and I reckon Lee Fisher, who's a good Borough lad, good Borough fan, is definitely a Chris Freestone fan club member.
He's a huge Borough fan.
Yeah, and he's a big Freestone fan club member. Can Chris recall his 2 goals for the Borough? One in the league on his debut versus Sheffield Wednesday, and the other in the League Cup against Barnet.
I can.
What do you remember of them, mate?
Chris, I can remember one of them. So you must be able to remember.
Let's have Andy Campbell's view of Chris Freestone's goal then.
I believe the Sheffield Wednesday one was a corner. I think it was a little bit of a ricochet around and then came to Chris and he rifled it into the roof of the net from about 3 or 4 yards out, I believe.
How accurate?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty much. Well, it was actually a flick on. Derek White flicked it on at the near post.
Degsy.
I think it was the first time in the game that Janino actually beat the first man. And as great as he was, it was the first time he'd actually beat the first man from the corner, and Derek White flicked it on and I volleyed it from about. It was actually about 2 yards out, but I smashed it as hard as I could. And I had a whole celebration planned, but I didn't get that far because Steve Vickers nearly ripped my head off and he grabbed hold of me.
The Barnet one, I can't remember it.
I think it was. I think Mikkel Beck was playing in that one. I think it was a cup game.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And I still say I think it was more of a shot than a cross, but it was a through ball in, and I can't remember who put me in.
Yeah, I can.
And then I think Becky had a sort of cross shot, so it was another tap. It was probably about 8 yards out, but it was just a side foot in the back of the net, if I remember. Something like that.
But when we're talking about that fox in the box, we're talking about 3 yards out, we're talking about 8 yards out, we're talking really close out, and we're not talking 25, 30, 18, you know. And I think that's the point that we're trying to put across. I think in my whole
lifetime I've only scored about twice outside, from distance. So not edge of the box, I scored a few, but like proper bangers from outside the box are probably about twice in my entire life. So live in the box.
There you go. I've got to thank Stu, who's watching in Canada, who has mentioned something about the age. Put it that way, my age, not yours, fellas. So he said, I'm a lot older than you two guys are, just like him. At least he's dragged himself into that conversation. Well done, mate. What we got here? Good forward. Yeah, thanks, Lee. Got that one. Chris, what was it like to play for and then manage Arnold Town?
It kind of fell in my lap, if I'm honest. I wasn't going to play anymore. I sort of fell out of love with the game at that sort of time. It was just, you go from all the highs back down to the sort of lows with one man and his dog watching games again, and I just wasn't enjoying it. And then I got talked into it by an old friend, and then I started to get enjoyment back out of it again. And then the manager decided to leave and asked me to take over, which I'd never thought about before. So yeah, it was good. It was good. It was sort of. It just seemed like it just finished off a stage in my.
Oh, we've lost him. We've lost him. We'll get him back. He's back. Chris is back. There you go, mate. We just lost you for a second.
So it just felt like it was I'd gone full circle sort of thing. I enjoyed the managing. I've managed at different levels, and it was good. He was inexperienced, but I was still playing as well, so sort of player manager. So it was me and Martin Crothers were doing it at the same time. So he would play and I'd manage, or he'd manage and I'd play. So it was good to have someone there we could bounce each other off.
Two very good lads as well, by the way.
Yeah,
2 good lads. Yeah. 2 good proper football lads. Chris, would you go back into it again?
I always, I'll say yeah, because I've got there's just something in me that really, I'm not actively looking. If it was right, I would do 100%. You know, I did an England side many years ago, which was fantastic, and that was great because it was just a tournament.
Yeah.
So it was like day to day for about 10 days, and then it was like, see you for a few months. It was great, but no, I do love it. I love coaching, but I'm not actively looking. But if it was the right thing, I would do 100%.
Is it just something in the blood that you can't get rid of? Is that what it is? You just can't shake it off.
Yeah, it's the same as playing. You know, I played for who did I play for? England vets team last year in Thailand in a World Cup, and I turned my knee, so I've just started coming back from that, and then so I just can't give it up. And a friend of mine asked me to play walking football, so that was fun. I'd never played before. But
Chris is a serial World Cup winner. Chris is a serial World Cup winner with the vets, with John DC and Pricey and everybody. So serial winner.
That's the ones.
Serial winner. I see. I'm on the other side of the fence, me, because I love football. I would love to play if my body would allow. It ain't happening. I've tried and failed miserably, I think. But I think managing is just. I leave it up to the people who have got a passion for doing it. I love to coach. I love to do what I do day to day. But it's that pressure. It's that enjoying winning but really hating losing and not really probably looking at the next game, you know, that everything just comes thick and fast, that when you lose it's your fault.
It does. When
you win it's the players who take the plaudits, and you can't get your head around it, because as a player you just enjoy playing, and when you lose the manager takes responsibility, which is fantastic. You get shouted at but it stays in the changing room, but when you win you feel $1 million, but the manager can't enjoy it because you've got a game Tuesday or a game next Saturday against top of the league or bottom of the league, and when you lose you take it personal, and you hear your players laughing and joking, and that got me.
That's the worst.
That gets me, and I can't handle it. And as a player, I can't remember doing that, Chris. I can't remember.
No, me neither.
I can't remember laughing and joking on the back of a bus. I can't remember laughing and joking in the changing room. Every time we lost as a group, as an individual, you took it to heart because you felt responsible for it. Where now in 2023 or 2022 or whenever last time I managed, I don't think players did take responsibility fully.
No, I totally agree. You know, I've had so many arguments with people. You know, they just. It's like they don't care, and for me, it just ruins my whole weekend. I hate losing. You know, my son's like 27 in a couple of weeks, and we play FIFA, and I hate losing at that as well. I just don't like losing. You know, if he's better than me, I can take it. But you know,
I think I'd love to hear Chris Freestone lose his temper. I really would. I think I'd love to see you have an argument. To be fair, because I can't see you. I can't see that.
No, it takes a lot. I mean, when I was a kid, I was very, very angry for some. I don't know why I was very angry, but I learned a long time ago to sort of, you know, calm myself down and stuff. So it takes a lot to wind me up, and there's all certain things that does wind me up, and that, like you said, there, people laughing and joking, especially in the changing rooms after the game. You know, not an hour later, not half an hour later when it sort of settled down, but literally come off the pitch, talking to the opposition. Get in the change rooms, having a laugh and a joke in the shower and stuff. I can't cope with stuff. I have to take myself away, otherwise, you know, there's going to be all sorts flying in the change rooms. But I think that's how it. When you talk about levels, why people go to a certain level, is having that attitude and that absolute desire to want to win. You know, and just a burning passion to win at all, not at all costs, but just want to win all the time. And then you're devastated when you don't.
Well, that's in your personality as well, Chris.
That sort of drive and attitude, don't you?
That's in your personality as well, Law, surely, because I'm not asking for people to sit in the changing room and cry. I'm not looking in the changing room and be fake. I'm just I want it to hurt. I want people to understand what's gone wrong. I want people to understand. And now I'm talking things weren't going great at Middlesbrough. You know what I mean? The start of the season was horrific, and the backlash now is potentially, you know what I mean, if we lose out at the playoffs by a point or promotion by 3 points, it's because of the way the season started. And by the way that I look now, the players seem to care, the players seem to hurt, the manager was hurting, the fans were obviously hurting with some of the comments, and all that's all fans want. All fans want is to understand that players care and hurt the same as supporters do, Dave. And I think when that feeling is there, and the camaraderie is there, and the whole togetherness is there, I think then we win as a team, we lose as a team. But I think you can always tell when teams aren't together, when change rooms are a little bit fractured and players don't care, and you see them out socialising, social media being the devil it is. You know what I mean? Because everyone's allowed a little bit of downtime. I'm not saying you've got to live like a nun and you've got to stay at home and cry your eyes out if you lose, but there's a way to handle it, and there's a way to not handle it. I think it's authenticity.
That's what fans want. You know, if they're hurting because the performance or the results are not going right, they don't expect to see players laughing and joking and having a whale of a time. They just want them to try and do everything they can to put it right. Totally. That's it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Another question coming in for Chris. This is a bit of left field, but then Andy's got some more left field ones for you. It's Ian. Ian's he's our resident Darlington fan who, for some reason, follows Andy Campbell. But there you go. He's asking, Chris, did you ever get the chance to sign for Darlington?
Not for Darlington, no. They had Martin Carruthers, so I went to Hartlepool. So
and once you play for Hartlepool, I think that's a sin that you'll never get. You'll never get that love.
I think that was. No, it was. No, I don't remember. I don't think so. I had an opportunity to go to Scotland. I went to Carlisle on loan. I got an opportunity. They wanted to sign me. I think Robbo put a ridiculous figure on my head at one stage. Somebody said it was about $1.5 million to go to Carlisle, which I was like, come on, but thanks. But no, not Darlington. I sort of went around the northeast a little bit, but never got as far as Darlington.
Okay. And I think when I was talking about curveball questions, we've got to thank Rob for these.
These aren't me, Chris, so I'm going to apologise in advance. So thanks to Rob. So I've got 5 questions for you. So question number 1. Apologies, because I didn't fill you in before we started. What was your first game for Middlesbrough? First game for Middlesbrough.
Blackpool away.
Fantastic. And what was your best game that you played in for Middlesbrough? What was the best game you played in the red shirt?
It'd have to be a Sheffield Wednesday one. My debut. I loved every single minute of it, and I didn't want to come off. And it was only because you were coming off that I was happy coming off.
And you know what, right?
If it hadn't been you, I want to come off.
Yeah, and do you know what? It made it even more special for me, because you know when Chris said earlier on about competing for place, that holy grail, because there wasn't that many opportunities to play. You know, I mean, Jan was.
You mentioned Jan. You mentioned Mikkel.
Jan was there. Jan was there. It was Jan plus 1. You know what I mean? So the chances were limited. So for Chris to score, it wasn't a case of, Chris has just scored, I'm never going to get an opportunity. It was, we were pleased for each other. You know what I mean? Because we shared a changing room together. We socialised together. You know what I mean? We did a lot of things together as young players. So it was always nice to see each other doing well. And I think we had that respect for each other. And I think that was the thing. And I think that's why our relationship has continued all these years throughout all this time, which I think is for me the most pleasing thing.
It's a long time as well.
A long time, mate. Yes, a long time ago. In your career,
sadly for me, I remembered you playing.
In your career, Chris, who's the dirtiest player you've come across?
Oh God, I remember getting smashed by Julian Dix.
Oh, that was a good one. It's a blast from the past, isn't it?
Then Junior
I think I smashed him first, though. To be fair, so
good.
Yeah, I think he chased me around for a bit. And I did the same with Roy Keane as well, and he chased me around for a bit as well. So,
Chris, you were not very sensible those days, were you? I mean, if there were people,
I think I was just late with a tackle. You know, to score goals with I couldn't tackle to save my life. So, you know.
Interesting. Chris, who was the best player that you played with, and who was the best player that you played against?
I'd probably have to. I've got to say Juninho, absolutely magician. You know, and don't get me wrong, I've played with some decent players, but Juninho was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
Tell the viewers, Chris, what was special about him?
He was just, for one, he was just, you know, he's just a normal guy, down to earth, and just wanted to play football. You know, for the big star that he was like a kid with a football. He'd play anywhere. You know, it was just great. That was it. It's just a genuine person, you know. I bumped into him years later, and he was still exactly the same. The last time I saw him up in Middlesbrough, he was exactly the same. It's just like a kid with a football, and I think that's great, you know, to be as big a player as him, and, you know, World Cup player and Brazilian number 10, but just to be such a down to earth, genuine, and he was genuine as well. You know, nice guy, and I think that's very rare in football in certain circles. So, no, he was great.
Because footballers get a bad rep, don't they? Footballers, Dave.
Yeah.
Footballers get a bad rep. You know what I mean? That they're not genuine. They're not nice guys. You know what I mean? They're hard to get to, and he was the opposite. You know what I mean? He
just play in the street, wasn't he?
Silly.
You know, he'd just play in the street. He'd go out there. The kids would be outside his house on the street playing football, and he'd just go and join them. Yeah. You know, as soon as he saw a football, that was it. He was out there playing.
Class.
Even though he probably shouldn't have been, but
no. Best player you played against?
Oh God. If I look at it as a striker with a centre half, it would probably be there was Steve Bruce and Gary Pallister. They were hard, very, very good at that time, and obviously, and there was, who else was it? Old Sol Campbell and Gary Mabbott. Me, I'm only 5'10", and all four of them were like 6'5" or something like that. So
top
they were fantastic.
Yeah.
If it was just being on the same pitch, it'd have to be Roberto Mancini when we played Sampdoria. There's a Riverside opening.
I remember that one. It was when Steph McGargle got his cruciate, wasn't it? Oh, he did his knee really badly. Yeah, a shame that was.
But he was Mancini was unbelievable. Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny how you remember certain things from certain games, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Chris, I'll apologise for this one. Final question for me. So, who was the longest in the shower?
Oh God. You know what? I can't remember. It'd probably have to be someone like Derek White.
Well, I'm gonna give a little bit of a twist on an answer if I was going to give it. So we had him on the show last time around. We had Craig Harrison on, and Craig absolutely had. Craig had the. I'm going to go hair envy here because obviously I'm bald as a coot. So hair envy. Craig had the most gorgeous and beautiful long locks you've ever seen. And every time we had a night out, Dave, he'd always have a comb in his top pocket.
Really?
And he'd pull it out and just start combing away. So every time you're obviously getting ready after training, for a night out, for example, he would just take. He used to love himself.
First in, last out.
He used to love himself, and he was he had natural beauty, and he was a good player as well. He had a lot.
Yeah. No envy there then.
No, I do.
Yeah, indeed.
No, but Chris, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate your time, and I'll catch up soon, mate.
Yeah, brilliant. Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Brilliant stuff, Chris. Thank you.
Speak to you soon.
Appreciate it. Mate. Chris Freestone, former Borough striker, time at Hartlepool as well, and in the northeast, but never Darlow. Never Darlow. There you go. What a good lad he was. So, I mean, great chat.
Yeah,
but we've got to look ahead to some football now.
Yeah, proper football, and I think it seems like a lifetime ago. You know, there's probably a lot happened this week in terms of interviews, etc., opportunities that I think this is an opportunity day for me that we can't turn down, we can't turn away from. This is a huge game. The Leicester game's gone. We conquered, we got the 3 points, but we need to get something from Bristol City. You know, they're just below us. If the beaters will go ahead of us, we don't want the gap to get any bigger. It's a game that we should be going into for me and should be taking points away from it. You know what I mean? Listen, if you're looking at 4 points a week, away 1 point, 3 points at home, then I'd snap your hands off. But I want to go there. I want to go with loads of confidence, loads of arrogance. I want Hayden Hackney to take his international form. I want other players to take their international form into the club form and go and absolutely blow these away.
Yeah. And I suppose if you just come off the back, I know there's been a break, but you're coming off the back of beating the league leaders and putting in a decent display against them. I mean, it was a masterclass in tactics, complete change.
It'd be interesting, though, Dave. We spoke about this last week, though, that how he attacks this game, or doesn't attack the game, so to speak, in terms of his master tactician and how he's going about it. He's had a little bit of time to work on things with the bigger group, but his better players will have been away on national duty, so there won't be a lot of time for those to catch up on the things that he wants to work on. Yeah.
Sure, we can have a listen to him. He did his press conference a little earlier, and just a quick snippet from that. This is what Michael Carrick had to say.
I think the boys who have not gone away on international, it's important that they switch off and have a breather and come again stronger. And for me, this game's even bigger than the Leicester game. I think there's a natural buzz and there's a natural feeling around the Leicester game. Top of the league and coming down from the Premier League and good team. I think there was a big feeling in the stadium that it was a big game. For us, this is an even bigger game. Going down to Bristol, new manager, first game at home, and with total respect for Bristol, it's one that is you can take your eye off the back of Leicester, because everyone's still enjoying Leicester, but that's done, and this challenge is even bigger for us. So we're looking forward to it and be ready for that. But we certainly use the energy and the confidence that we've gained over recent weeks.
I thought for 1 minute there he was going to say this is one you have to look to win, and I think he just changed his mind there and said it'd be easy for you to take your eye off having done Leicester. But it is, isn't it? You don't want to beat Leicester and then lose to Bristol City.
No, 100% no. And I take little things from what he's saying, that he's playing down the importance of the game. He's playing down that players won't have worked hard, that they've had a bit of time off, so you know what I mean, the tempo is lessened. The tempo, the training will have been electric, you know what I mean. They'll have worked on certain things. Players will have worked on fitness levels. They still have had a bit of time off because it's only natural. They've probably got an extra day off or two, but when their sessions will have been on, the tempo will have been there, the expectation and the standards will have been there, and but he just oozes class. He oozes class the way he speaks to everybody. He's got that understanding on players who are still there. He's got the understanding that players who've gone away for international duty are going to come back and hopefully be fit and ready to hit the ground running again and keep the levels going the way they've been, because their tempo and their time of the international duty will be a lot of football, a lot of training, a lot of travelling potentially. So we just need to manage those kind of players and make sure that they're ready to go for Bristol City and beyond, because up to Christmas now is a huge fixture backlog, because we're doing that well in the cup and we're doing well in the league, and then we'll have an FA Cup game to come obviously early in the new year. So but these are the times you want to be a player, you know what I mean. That's why we've got a big squad, and I'm sure that if we continue to make the progress that we've made, then the squad might improve and get bigger and bigger, because we're going to need all the help that we can get.
We always hear this phrase that Christmas and New Year is the defining moment in a season for a team. Yeah. But for Boro, pre-Christmas, they've done Leicester already. Yeah. You know, they've got Leeds coming, Preston up next after Bristol City, a battle with Hull, West Brom. Yeah. I mean, all those teams are in and around where the Boro are at the moment. Is it fair to say that the next 5 weeks is Boro's defining part of the season? I
think 100%, and it's probably more defining for the start we've had, because we've been playing catch-up since October, and we've caught up a little bit, but we're still, in terms of, we're a little bit far away because we're playing teams in and around us now. You know what I mean? You look at the league table, but Bristol City 2 points behind us. You know what I mean? Preston are above us, Leeds are above us, Hull are above us. So in order for the gap not to get bigger, they mustn't lose games. All those games are mustn't lose games. But if we don't win them, then the gap's going to increase elsewhere. We need to pick as many points as we can against good sides and the sides above us than we possibly can, and then we regroup again. You know what I mean? The Port Vale game will look after itself because the importance of it. But then after Christmas, and I don't want to look too far ahead, but after Christmas we're playing the bottom 5 simultaneously. So that then becomes a really good opportunity again, and 3 games effectively, or really, because we're going to be confident. We're going to be going into them hopefully with bags of confidence, bags of goals, loads more points, and we could be in the playoffs or better. So I think the bigger picture is we've got to look here and now. Bristol City becomes a huge game off the back of the Leicester game. The Preston game then becomes a big game because you're coming off the back of something against Bristol City, and then the Leeds game doesn't need any introduction, you know. So I think these games are games that the players will be going into full of confidence, full of desire that they want to play. But I think the fans know the importance of the games up to Christmas now in the running, because everybody's going to look at probably the cup game, the quarter final of the cup, and want to play those kind of games. But the only way you'll play in that cup game is if you're playing well for this football club, and you're going to earn your shirt, because there's no point taking a risk now in the league games or the cup games, because there's no time to lose any ground on anybody.
Where do you stand on the Nigel Pearson conversation in terms of every time Boro played Nigel Pearson, he had his players set up and raring to go, and his teams were terrible for us to play.
Yeah, they were.
Because he just, I think Big Nige is just like, right, my former team, I'm going to prove a point here. But at the same time, he's now gone.
Yep.
So you've got a new manager in place, so it could be that new manager bounce. I mean, where do you see Bristol City being?
I think that's where they become dangerous, and we spoke about this before about the impact a new manager can have on a team is always a positive one. So,
I mean, Dowlow haven't had that with Josh, have they?
No, they haven't. No, you know what I mean. So there's an opportunity that we can catch them cold. Have they had too long to work on certain things? Will they be ready for us? Will our tactics go the same as the Leicester game, or will they go back and revert to the Plymouth game, for example? So they'll be second guessing us. We'll have to second guess them because we won't know really what they're going to come at us with. That'll be team selection until the team comes out at 2:00. Then tactics wise, you're second guessing them, but I expect them to be up for it. They've got some good players who can hurt you at the Championship level, but I think I'm more happy that Nigel's not there in terms of for Middlesbrough. I'd like Nigel to still be there because I'm a big Nigel Pearson fan, and I'm a big Curtis Fleming fan because of the upbringing and the opportunities and the help that they gave me as a young person and as a footballer. But I think I'm happy that they're not there in terms of Middlesbrough will hopefully be able to beat them, and I won't feel as though a little bit of split loyalties in terms of nice people that you're playing against and seeing people hurt. Because listen, I hate people seeing people get jobs, especially people lose jobs that you know. And if Middlesbrough would have beaten Bristol
would have been even worse, wouldn't it?
And those two lose their jobs because Middlesbrough have beaten them, then it's a double-edged sword. Then and it's not nice, not a nice thing to see.
Now we've had a couple of weeks off, international break, but I suppose the not so good news for the Borough is sadly across that 2-week period we're not seeing players return from injury because the injuries we're suffering at the moment are longer term. How much of a blow is that? Yeah,
gosh, it's horrific. It's bad for the players themselves, of course it is, but I think it's bad for Mikkel and his staff because trying to freshen things up and keep things going with the levels of players that we're talking about who are injured. You know what I mean? You want to bring these kind of players in. You know what I mean? And the players and the injuries that we picked up. You know, broken legs, serious knee injuries, ankles, other knees. You know what I mean? Long-term serious injuries. McGree's, Lenahans, O'Brien's. These kind of players will walk into any other Championship team.
Yeah,
and they'd walk into the Middlesbrough team. More importantly, but they've got to be fit and ready and back doing what they can do in order to be back in the side. And I think Christmas time in January it'll be pivotal, but we have to be in those areas, like I keep saying, to in order for those to come back in and make us better and fresher and push us on to another level. If we're mid-table and we're not playing for anything, we won't be getting excited. You know, there's no point in them coming back and risking something, but I want them come back ready and willing to put that red shirt on and have that desire, but I want him to come back in a team who's been successful.
Yeah. Comment coming in from Lee. He's talking about Latte Lath. He's making a bit of a statement more than anything else, but it'll be good to get your views on it. He's talking about Emmanuel Latte Lath will come good, just needs more composure. He's got lots of pace. Touch has been letting him down, but he does see the more football he plays. He thinks the more football he plays, the more that striker what's intuition is going to come naturally. What are your thoughts on Latilla?
I'm a huge fan. I like the way he plays. He's got pace, he's got power, he's very direct, he plays on the shoulder. The goal he scored against Cardiff was excellent. I'd like to see a little bit more of it. He hasn't had the game time and the opportunities. When he's come in the League Cup, he's done well. Yeah, he's led the line really well. When he's come on in the games from the bench, he's changed games. He's had a huge positive impact, which is fantastic. Listen, I'd love to see him and Josh up together, just like for like, playing off each other. He'd get loads of joy because Josh would do all the stuff that he doesn't like doing, and he'd get loads of joy going the other side. The problem we've got with that is it's not the way that Mikkel wants the team to play. He plays one or the other, and at the minute, the way that we are playing, it suits that big player who holds the ball up instead of somebody going the other way. I think Lath would have got loads of joy last year. I think he would have scored bags of goals last year. It's just currently the way that we're playing, it's suiting another player ahead of him. But when he's getting those 20-30 minutes, he's just got to continue doing what he's doing. But I agree. I think he's a phenomenal footballer. I think he'll come good. I think he'll get better and better. He'll grow like a fine wine, and he'll score more goals as the game's going. And
he's going to mature.
He will. And I think it's important that we don't judge him on the here and now. We don't judge him for the rest of the season. For example, he's on a longer contract. He's here like we all know, for a long term, so we need to back him, and hopefully that he'll score more goals next year, the season after. You look at Chuba when he came. Chuba didn't score the goals on his first season and his second season. He went away, came back and scored before he had the real positive impact. So, you know what I mean, let's not be too critical. He's come from another country. He's taken time to adapt. He was thrown into the deep end straight away. It didn't work out for him for whatever reason. He's took a step out, and I think he's become a better player. potentially a better person for that.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get the benefits long term, because listen, if he can be that person to score the goal to get us in the playoffs, if he can be that person to score the winning goal at the playoff final, you know what I mean, or to get us into a Wembley Cup final, he's got the ability. So we back him and we support him because he's one of our own. He's one of our players.
Right. So focus on Bristol City then. What are you expecting?
I'm expecting a physical game, a tough game, a game that they'll go into with confidence, because to sack a manager mid-table or higher than mid-table, I think was a brave call. I think there was probably more to it. But you never get the answers to that. You never really know. But it'll be a good game. They've got some good footballers, especially going forward. They score a lot of goals, but they do ship goals the other end. So I'm expecting probably a few goals in the game, but I expect us to win. I'm confident now, and it's not an arrogant kind of confident. I'm confident because we'll score goals. I don't believe we'll keep many clean sheets, because it's not the way that we set up at the minute. But we
kept a couple in recent weeks, mate.
Yeah, well, I mean away from home. I think away from home we do tend to leave a few more gaps, because we go a little bit more expansive, because we tend to attack more. But I like that kind of football, and I think the away fans who've travelled in their numbers get the value for the money, which is fantastic. But I think we'll win 2-1.
The entertainers. Yeah, 2-1. Grand stuff. Well, it's another one done and dusted, mate.
No, I love it. Absolutely amazing. And thanks for everybody's questions. Keep them rolling in, because it's great to have a guest on. You know what I mean? We'll continue to have them on. But we'll overload. I think it's a nice.
Well, Lee's just snuck one in. He's going for a 2-1 Boro win, and he reckons,
don't copy Lee.
He reckons Coburn's going to get a brace. So there you go.
I hope he does.
Another brace.
Hope he does. It'd be fantastic if he does. I think for his own personal development. I know he had a quieter game against Leicester in terms of shots and chances created and goals, obviously. But the Plymouth game, he got 2. So away from home, he seems to have a little bit more lease of life, and hopefully he can get more opportunities and get those goals.
Indeed, Andy, pleasure.
Fabulous.
Catch you next week. Well done, mate. And thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments. We'll be same place next week, same time, all that sort of gubbins. Catch you soon.
He's pulled the shirt on, scored the goals. Andy Campbell on the red.
This is the